Just as a show of hands, let me put a one in the chat. If you could just let me know if you can hear me clearly, just to make sure that our sound is good. So if you are, just kind of put a one in the chat. Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that feedback. And again, just at the end of this call, we can have a Q&A, of course, and then you will receive a survey just so we can get your feedback as well as to how we're doing with these weekly calls. I'm so thankful that we have the opportunity to be a part of your life in the way of sharing health and wellness. And as we share this information ongoing, this is going to be an ongoing initiative that we took upon ourselves back in January, and it's going to be ongoing. And of course, we will have a guest appearance from time to time. And as we do that, if you have a particular topic that you like to share your testimony or maybe your experience, feel free. We would also love to have you as a guest appearance as well. We had an amazing event 2 weeks ago where we got some really great feedback. Some information was shared by Dr. Babakowski, Darren Solano, Dr. Paul. Of course, we had another speaker named Natalie Lewis, and they also shared on different aspects or dynamics of health in their field. And so as we continue this, we want to have the ability to add value to your life. So this topic today that we're sharing is on fibroids. And of course, fibroids in a way of how, sharing tips, things you can do to improve your symptoms and conditions. In most cases, some people are told they have to have either a partial hysterectomy or full hysterectomy, depending on the severity of their fibroids. But in the interim, there's things you can do to help you, especially when you're going through this type of challenge or being told that you have this experience. You're going to have this experience. I do apologize in advance. I'm getting over a cold, so this is the tail end of it. So if I'm clearing my throat, it's not because, well, I'm still a little nervous, but still, I actually just want to give you a heads up that my voice may come and go. So I'm just going to share the screen with you. Excuse me. Just went. Oh, here it is. Okay. Awesome. And just to let me know if you can see the screen, please put a one in the chat just to confirm you can see it before I proceed. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So we're speaking on different areas of, that you may experience beyond fibroids. So things like how thyroid impacts your, you when you have fibroids or been diagnosed with it, anemia, and other things like stress, anxiety, depression. So I kind of share a little bit of everything. And there are other symptoms that may be similar to another condition, which I may not expand on, but at least you'll have an idea. So for further for more information, you can actually sort of go through some additional homework if you have questions at the end, as I mentioned. So we have this. It's not really like a joke, but I found this image, and I thought this was actually quite timely because a lot of people who either aren't pregnant or may look like they're pregnant, but they're not. It can actually impact your self-esteem. It can impact your overall mindset or your mental state because you may be judged. So some people might say, well, I don't want to know, are you pregnant? Or I just noticed that, that your stomach is a little bit out. So people tend to point at the obvious, right? And sort of be inquisitive as that. So feel free to know that people go through these changes. And of course, it impacts not only their physical self, but their mental self as well, or health. Excuse me. So thinking of you having some symptoms, especially if you're going through a cycle, excessive amount of bleeding more than the normal. You may have some more abdominal pain, and you may think, do I have fibroids, or is it you think it's hereditary, right? But the best way is to look at certain key indicators, certain things that may point you towards that. And of course, always, always, always check with a health practitioner so they can actually do the process of elimination, do the necessary tests. But you having the information to give to them will help them sort of find out or to get a faster result because you sort of provide to them things that you're noticing about your body. So uterine fibroids, it's benign. I can share that with you. My mother, at I think she was 48 when she was diagnosed with fibroids, very severe, heavy bleeding. She sat down, got up, and she started having a heavy flow. And she had to have a full hysterectomy back then. And then, of course, she went into early menopause because that can happen and it can lead to further cases of osteoporosis, depending on your body, how your genetics, all of that. It will can determine so many things, especially if you are no longer producing the estrogen that your body needs. So then later on, my cousin, who had that diagnosed, she had severe pain, and of course, I'll share that with you in a little bit. But it led from partial to a full to onset of other things as well. But fibroids itself, it is benign. It is non-cancerous growth. Nonetheless, it can be quite painful. So it's made from muscle and fibrous tissue. So some women don't experience any symptoms at all. Some can have debilitating symptoms, like I mentioned, heavy prolonged periods way beyond your 5 or 7 day cycle. Sometimes you may have 2 or 3 times in a month because you have excessive prolonged period or periods, so to speak. Pelvic pain, pressure, bloating, which can have your protruding stomach, and the frequent need for urination. And of course, some may experience problems with fertility if they have too many clusters of fibroids in the close to the uterus. So in some cases, these may be things that you may overlook and think, okay, why am I going to the bathroom so often? Why is it I'm having pelvic pain? It could be inflammation, could be many things. So again, to sort of check these markers and to see how you can sort of pinpoint what you're going through, maybe keep a journal as to the experiences you're having every month, or if it's happening more than once. And of course, to be able to give that information back to your doctor or your practitioner. So most of these findings are found through PubMed, through other credible sites, but I normally put the source I get it from. So at your own leisure, you can go through and read in length and duration as to how you want to get that information, or more information, of course. So there's also something called adenomyosis, which is similar to fibroids, but it's not the same. Some people, and I won't expand too much on that because that in itself has a lot of information. I will do another health talk on that particular condition or symptoms, but for now, this entire presentation is mainly on fibroids. So just to give a little comparison between the two, adenomyosis is painful, sharp cramps. You have severe prolonged menstrual cycle, blood clots passing through, of course, when menstruation, discomfort while you're being intimate, and chronic constipation. Versus fibroids, which you don't have constipation, but you still have pain in your pelvis or lower back. In my cousin case, was mostly in her lower back. Heavy menstruation, frequent urination, stomach swelling and bloating to the two, as you can see. But there's actually some cases it is quite common to have both at the same time. So which may have worsen your symptoms and increase pain. So those who experience this have heavier bleeding than someone who just has fibroid. And so you may have more pain in the way of cramping, more pressure, and of course, it is very, very important to describe this to your doctor. But at times, some doctors may misdiagnose you because it's hard to determine which one's which in the way of the symptoms. The Angiomyosis it's a condition that occurs when there's lining inside the uterus. So the part that bleeds and sheds, of course, during your cycle, which is normally the case for all women, it can start growing, and of course, you have muscular walls of the uterus. So that's where you're diagnosed with this condition. So this can cause, the uterus to become mishappen, swollen, thicker than normal, and you have heavier bleeding and so forth. So it's very common that both these conditions at the same time can, as I mentioned, worsen the symptoms. And so here's another, of course, footnote here or source. You can actually get more information on that. And just as we go into explaining what fibroids are, some people may develop that when before they become pregnant or diagnosed when they're pregnant. Some shrink, some grow, depending on the size, of course, and of how aggressive they grow. I have, excuse me, some people have the fear that they don't want to check because it's something that they may think could be cancerous, or they make the assumption, and of course they don't take necessary steps to have it sort of checked to see or to confirm what they're going through. So the uterine fibroids can have symptoms like I mentioned before, heavy or painful periods. Also, iron deficiency anemia, you can be diagnosed with that because you have excessive amounts of blood loss, which can lead to other things like fatigue, weakness, and dizziness. Now, some people who have the regular cycle, they may have this heavy bleeding without being without having fibroids. So these are also some of the things people may experience if they're going through their monthly cycle. Sometimes fatigue, excessive sort of like weakness because their flow is so heavy. It may not be fibroids, but just to look out for those things. Frequent urinations, I mentioned, intercourse, as you're going through that intimate moment, you may experience that, not realize this is actually contributing to the pain, and it depends on the size of and where the fibroid is located. I mentioned before about pregnancy. Now, in my younger sister's case, she did not have fibroids, but when she became pregnant with her first child, she was told she had fibroids, and they went away on their own over time after birth, after she gave birth to her son. So there's also chances where it shrinks during pregnancy, even though you have more hormone levels in your body because you're pregnant. But this also can be something that can actually reduce. Some can have miscarriage. So of course, you're going to make sure that you are checking with your doctor to ensure that you have a safe, of course, all trimesters to have a safe birth, safe pregnancy, and all of that to speak with your OBGYN. Infertility is rare in some cases. Fibroids can interfere with the conception. In some cases, in this case, it's very rare, but it is a likelihood. So for those who are trying to conceive and you're told you have fibroids, speak with your doctor, speak to a specialist, your OBGYN, and find out what you can do in the way of therapy or treatment to be able to increase your chance of fertility. If this, and I mentioned this is very rare. Excuse me. So, for example, as we go through our lives, I guess season in life, I say we as in women, you may develop depending on different factors. So, if you're going through these, it will actually be impacted due to hormonal imbalance. So, this actually contracts the uterus, leading to greater blood loss during your cycle. So, if you have an imbalance in your hormones, this can fluctuate, of course, your estrogen, your mood, everything can be impacted in the way of how you operate as normally. And these may be indicators that you may have fibroids if you haven't seen a doctor as yet. So those who experience heavy excessive bleeding, who could be who could be diagnosed with low iron, or your hemoglobin is actually not normal in the sense of how you're supposed to generate that. I just realized my camera is off. Could you just confirm with me if my camera's off? I just want to make sure. Here we are, we're back. So for going back with what I was speaking on, the fibroids, for those who have actually been diagnosed, or they think they may have a family history of that, because you may have had an aunt or a mom who or sister who has been told they have fibroids. These are the things that you would need to at least be aware of if you may have a risk of getting fibroids. So iron deficiency is, as I mentioned before. Typically, if you become anemic, when you have the dizziness and weakness, they will do a test, of course, to make sure that you're to confirm that you're anemic because of the iron deficiency due to your fibroids, and to make sure that you have enough blood. Your hemoglobin is with, of course, your rich iron is actually operating normally in your body. So getting out of bed may seem more difficult because you're lethargic, you have no energy, and you feel constantly tired or maybe even lightheaded. And you may think, okay, your blood pressure is low. Well, really could be your hemoglobin, it could be your iron. So who's at risk for fibroids? Well, there's certain factors to elevate. If you elevate the likelihood of developing uterine cancer, uterine fibroids, I apologize. Age is one, anyway from 35 to 50, you could be diagnosed. Ethnicity is another, especially in non-Caucasian women, so Blacks, Hispanics, and so forth. could have a higher risk. It doesn't say that Caucasian women do not get fibroids, but it's a lower percentage than non of ethnicities like Blacks, Hispanics, Indians, and so forth. Obesity is a factor as well. So excessive weight is linked to hormonal imbalance, which can actually cause, and chronic inflammation can actually fuel fibroids development or growth. Family history, in my case, in my family's case, my aunt on my maternal side, my mom, and my younger sister, I was told I had small clusters, but mine disappeared. They shrank and never came back. And I'll explain to you what I did in order to have those reduced. I did not have excessive bleeding, but I was told I had after my ultrasound was done. And that's how I knew, and no other symptoms were there, like protruding stomach and all of that didn't happen for me. So every person is different in the way how they experience, if they have fibroids, I've been told that they have fibroids. So family history, I mentioned vitamin D deficiency is another. Many women do not know that they're deficient in vitamin D. There are other factors that come in play when you're deficient in vitamin D. We don't get enough exposure to the sun. We are under artificial lights most of the time. We don't eat sufficient food or nutrients because the food is so depleted. Like the soil is depleted, so we don't get enough vitamin D. And of course, our skin protects us, the melanin, skin protects us from the sun, but also blocks the vitamin D, so we don't get as much as our Caucasian counterparts. And of course, this is where we don't even realize it, especially here in Canada, when you go for your blood work or even ask for a full blood work, vitamin D is not one of the things that they check for. You have to pay for that. So if you want to make sure that you are not deficient in vitamin D, ask to do a test to confirm, and then of course, you take the right amount in order to bring back your levels of vitamin D that is actually works with helping you to recover faster in the way of your vitamin D deficiency. Diet is another one. Eating highly processed food, maybe too much of alcohol in your consumption. Smoking could be another. Hormone disrupting pollutants, spikes in your estrogen levels, and accelerating all of the fibroid symptoms that you may have been diagnosed with, or your early stage of fibroids. So, excuse me. So how does obesity and inflammation fuel the fibroids? Well, obesity isn't just a number on the scale, it's a metabolic trigger for fibroids. So fat cells release inflammatory molecules, and these actually can disrupt your uterine tissue, promoting tumor-like growth. And of course, it can be aggressive, especially as you are gaining more weight, your hormone levels are sort of off balance, and of course, your inflammation is actually increased in your body. And so the body needs balance, and if it's out of balance, things like fibroids can happen, and they can expand rather aggressively depending on all these factors. So studies show that oxidative stress can cause imbalance like obesity. It activates harmful signaling pathways in your uterine muscle cells. So over time, basically that leads to excessive collagen buildup. And so this happens where you actually have indicators that you have fibroids. And so there's many studies that have been put in place to show that your body mass index correlates with increased fibroid risk. Now, doesn't mean that if you're overweight, doesn't mean that you will get fibroids, but there's certain key indicators that show that you more than likely will get it, especially with your other genetic makeup, like your age, your ethnicity, and so forth. So how does chronic inflammation in uterus fibroids, how do they play a role? So fibroid pain can range from low to high. So the chronic inflammation is a big problem for many health issues, not just fibroids. In all the other presentations we've done, inflammation is one of the main things that actually triggers other health conditions. Chronic pain can trigger many things. Can just sort of have your balance, your hormone balance, your stress level, anxiety, everything is sort of related, right? So the inflammation that you experience, including fibroids, think of it as a long-term immune response. So your body's like fight or flight. And so if your immune your long-term immune is sort of compromised, it can cause further problems, not just fibroids. So understanding your role with uterine inflammation is key in helping you to find the right treatment. You speak to the right health practitioner, maybe a nutritionist, maybe someone else who can help you, naturopathic, as well as doing your own research through credible sites. And of course, as I mentioned to you, we find these information through credible sites like Harvard and Yale and PubMed Study, Public Medical Library, the Health Library. So these are all documented studies that you have over thousands and thousands of documented proof as to how these things impact the body, including chronic inflammation. Excuse me. So think of it as how the body responds. It can either help the body or harm the body. The body needs some sort of something to fight off, certain conditions. But if it's too inflamed or too acidic and it's not in the right balance, these are things that can happen. So it's different from acute inflammation. So acute inflammation is short-lived. It's a protective way of protecting your body. Chronic inflammation can cause obesity, bad diet, and toxins to stay in your body. So in the case of uterine inflammation, chronic inflammation can make fibroids worse. Excuse me. So basically that affects women's health a lot more. Excuse me, sorry about that. So think of it as, the link between fibroids and body inflammation. So the key is, or the important thing is to remember, is to understand that this connection for the women's health, it can impact you in many ways, especially if you're not controlling how your body responds to inflammation. Of course, as well as your immune system, your immune system overall. Keep in mind as well for individuals who've had hypothyroidism, if there's hyper and hypo, but in some cases, for those who have thyroid issues and fibroids, they actually are kind of impact you in a different way. So, the thyroidism or hypothyroidism is basically, think of it as your estrogen and your progesterone stimulating to develop your uterine. So if, for example, your cycle, or even when you're preparing for pregnancy, your estrogen level will change. And women who are of reproductive age, they need the thyroid hormones, right? So you need that to maintain your balance. And so as you go into menopause, that changes, of course. Or if you had a hysterectomy, that can change as well. And so the ovulation, how your body is ovulating, or how the hormone balance helps to ovulate. You ovulated to make progesterone, that can go out of balance. So if you have hypothyroidism, that throws everything off. So forcing the body to create more estrogen, and so that more estrogen and the low progesterone leads to the growth of your fibroids. So sometimes, as I mentioned, it can be aggressive or slow progression of that. So the difference between fibroids and thyroids, as we mentioned here, I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm going to go through the middle where you see is actually the intertwine. So for both fibroids and thyroid, anemia, constipation, depression, difficulty getting pregnant, exhaustion, frequent urination, heavy periods, irregular periods, sexual dysfunction, weight gain. Those two, actually, the symptoms are similar when you have a thyroid issue and you have been diagnosed with fibroids. So all of that said, you're experiencing the symptoms of heavy bleeding, discomfort, body change. Things may happen where you become overly sensitive because of how your body's changing, and you're sort of dealing with everyday life, and then depression sort of creeps in. And so depression from fibroids, it's actually something that has been documented. So chronic conditions like fibroids don't just affect your body, as we know, or many of us who may not know, this is something to think about. It can lead to fibroid-related depression, anxiety, and stress, because the body is made in a way to handle mild stress, but not chronic stress. It's meant to have some sort of, so you may have a slight mood swing depending on how your day is going, but not to have long-term depression or anxiety. And so if you're combining even anxiety on its own for other conditions, imagine if you have fibroids and also battling that. So your body's not just trying to deal with your fibroids, what's happening with you with your cycle, but overall well-being. So the emotional impact of fibroids is often overlooked. And so we don't, when you have a doctor or practitioner, they're not psychologists, they're not people who can actually sort of listen to what's happened to you mentally. So I would say to you, you're your best doctor. Reach out to someone who can help you to sort of share in your concerns. Maybe you're part of a community of a few friends who you know may have experienced it or know someone who does. And that way you have a network of people that you can go to sort of de-stress and to speak about what you're going through so you feel you're not alone. So persistent feelings of sadness, loss of interest in activity can creep up over time. It's not just one occurrence. Changing your sleep pattern, your appetite, even concentrating, even fatigue, and moments of feeling hopeless. And you may not express that to someone because you may not want to, express how you're feeling for being afraid of being ostracized or criticized, because they may think it's all in your head and you're making things up. But if you know someone you know, like, and trust, or if it's someone who is a stranger who is in that profession who you can speak to and sort of unburden yourself to relieve the stress of yourself of that stress that you're carrying, you may feel a lightness. You may feel better, more balanced, because you're able to equip yourself with how you cope with what you're going through. So the emotional challenges can be daunting. As you compound it with the pain that you're feeling, the stress, and how your body's changing, and you may even have fertility concerns depending on your age or what in your stage of life that you're going through certain things. So how does fibroid affect your emotional life? Well, mentally, excuse me, there's a study that actually through the National Library of Medicine found that women who have fibroids, they feel that they have a lower quality of life. Excuse me. This throat of mine. Lower quality of life before treatment, and if they've had a hysterectomy, they may have feelings of worthlessness because they have lost sort of the essence of their femininity in their mind because they may have had a full hysterectomy or partial, or if they were younger and they're childbearing years and they've had a full hysterectomy, that also can impact them as well in their mental health. So this will sort of have them withdraw from social interaction, and you're not expressing how you're feeling. You don't feel safe to share how you're feeling emotionally. And so you're sort of either maybe too critical of yourself, too judgmental of yourself, and sort of being more down on yourself in a way of your emotional state. So participants also reported feeling, discomfort, but also decrease interest in sexual relationships. So either there's less satisfaction or they have no need or feeling to be intimate with their partner. So sex and anxiety can cause, sorry, not sex, stress. I'm seeing different words here. So stress and anxiety can cause, excuse me, caused by fibroids. There's also another study showing through the National Institute of Health. It can actually have you have severe mood swings, like emotional challenges that you normally can cope with, can seem more daunting. So some of these studies have showed that this feeling of low self-esteem, even physical appearance, is impacted with your self-worth, your self-esteem, and also that does not only impacts you, but impacts your household, the people around you, because people can feel your energy. So if you're feeling down, feeling stressed, feeling anxious, low self-esteem, overly critical, it can impact your relationship with your children, your relations with your family, your spouse, even with your friends. So that also impacts your overall quality of life. So these are things to think of as well, that, how can I cope with this? What can I do to improve my quality of life? So if you're looking at, where you're feeling overly anxious or fearful of the unknown, what's going to happen, don't walk alone in this path. Reach out to someone who can help you, or you can speak to sort of release that emotional distress. Some people may even have more concerns, especially when upcoming surgery. If you're by yourself and you feel alone, you may go into surgery by yourself and leave the hospital or after the surgery by yourself, and that compounds your stress level and your fear. So one of the things people do is sort of become like an ostrich. They put their heads in the sand and they sort of deny or sort of like put things off because they don't want to know the unknown. They would rather just suffer in silence, and they would be afraid of the diagnosis because they may even think worst case scenario, or maybe you have cancer, maybe you have this, maybe you have that. But really, a simple diagnosis can help you get the best treatment, the best window to help you in a way of how knowing what to do in circumstances where you have fibroids or been told you have fibroids. So many women believe the symptoms are just part of a woman, or other people they speak to. Well, this is it's part of women and some of the things you go through, and they put things off. But I would say to you, if you have or see symptoms, don't wait for too long because it can actually become worse. And then at that late stage, you may be told you may have to have a hysterectomy because you didn't do the necessary work to be able to reduce or help you to in your journey with your fibroids diagnosis or lack thereof. So it's no secret chronic stress, wreaks havoc on the body. It can have, your reproductive health is no exception. But think of it, think of how stress impacts you on a day-to-day basis, more so when you have been diagnosed with fibroids. So, because stress can trigger your body fight or flight mode or response. And so automatically you go into that stress mode to save you like a protective, you know, invisible wall when you're going through these moments, but really you're causing more stress and damage to your body. So that impacts how you release your hormones, your cortisol, your adrenaline. All of that, of course, would be imbalanced. So when stress becomes chronic, this impacts your hormonal balance, as I mentioned before, impacts your mental and physical health, including your reproductive health. So these are things happening internally that we're not realizing because we're just trying to cope with the day. Just trying to cope with the situation, with the fibroids, with the symptoms you're experiencing on the external, and of course the pain you may experience because you're going through these changes. So hormone disruption is another thing as well, as we mentioned before. Fibroids are sensitive to hormones, especially estrogen. So that's why fibroids can shrink during menopause, or also when estrogen levels dip. So chronic stress may disrupt the balance of your hormones and, of course, potentially contribute to fibroid growth. But what can you do? What can you and I do if you know someone who has these situational circumstances that they're going through, this challenge in their life? Think of one thing, which is lifestyle change. Some people may find that lifestyle factors can help improve symptoms associated with fibroids. Things like regular exercise, if you're able to, breathing exercise. Actually, I love breathing exercise. It actually distresses your body in the moment, especially when you're having a stressful moment out, with the outside world, and you're having that internally as well because you're going through this change. Making the conscious choice to eat healthier. Eating healthier diet by planning your week, your day, your month. So how are you going to eat and what you're going to eat, especially when you go out, to eliminate the amount of processed food that you may eat, especially when the body's stressed. If the body's stressed, it may gravitate to sugary things that are easy fix, the things that are like instant gratification, like processed food, burgers, and things like that, versus making the conscious choice of eating healthier. We sometimes make healthier decisions when we are not of stress, when we can think clearly, we can focus, versus when you're in stress mode, fight or flight mode, and you're thinking instant gratification, soothing, or comfort food, comfort drinks, and they may not be the best choice because you're going for the process, easy to get things. Tai Chi is another way to think of. Maybe pick up Tai Chi as well, or yoga could be something you can actually do, and this helps to distress the body. Fibroids are more common in people that are overweight or obese. So maintaining a healthier weight can help you to protect against fibroid, especially when you have certain things stack against you, like your age, your gender, not your gender, your ethnicity, and other factors as well. So getting regular exercise and eating healthier in the way of your diet can help you to have a more effective way. You may not have to go full aggressive workout, walking, doing certain type of even chair exercise is good. Like with chair yoga, as I mentioned, Tai Chi, Pilates, different things that are not so, in the way of, too impactful on the joints, especially from the stage in your life. Even swimming, water yoga. water exercise, different types of things you can do. So you can be creative in what you do, but I'm going to actually give you some tips. And if you decided to do yoga or implement yoga into your regular exercise regime. So yoga actually helps relieve some of the discomfort you may have if you've been diagnosed with fibroids. It helps reduce the stress. It helps the pain that you're going through with fibroids lessen. And of course, the discomfort doesn't get worse, it actually reduces the impact on your pain level. Doing this regularly actually helps to put your body into that state. It helps to improve blood circulation, improve strength and flexibility. It helps to, you may have been told you have weak abdominal muscles, and of course, doing yoga helps to tighten your hips, your thighs, your abdomen, your lower back, your pelvis, where most of your pain could be, and of course, where the pain can be exacerbated, sorry, for the fibroid pain, where normally when you have the pain, the intense part of your pain. And so doing that can help to strengthen, and your flexibility will actually show change over time. Balances your hormones because it helps to balance your body. It helps with your hormone balance, basically reducing your stress level, your cortisol, and strengthening your pelvic floor muscle helps as well to reduce the pressure on your abdomen, and also reducing because most times if there is excess weight around your tummy, you have increased fibroid pain. So certain yoga exercises and poses can actually engage those pelvic floor muscles to help you to reduce some of the symptoms. I put this here as well. This was actually before. I will need to go through that again. But why do you need to manage your diet or your exercise? Because it actually helps with managing your fibroids. So heavy menstrual bleeding caused by fibroids can contribute to iron deficiency, fatigue, and other health concerns. Things that can actually impact you beyond your physical, as we mentioned before, and your social and economic burdens. You can actually get more stressed because you may miss more days of work. You may have to invest in more costly treatments, or even your emotional stress can actually, increase, or sort of in a sense of heighten. So if you're able to have a balanced diet, do the proper workout, even if it's 2 or 3 times a week, because life gets in the way. Be mindful of what you consume, especially sugary things, which actually increases the odds of more frequent pain, increasing your pain level. Being gentle with yourself, being kind to yourself. Don't bully yourself in the sense of being overly critical and judgmental of yourself, because you're going to be too harsh on yourself, of course. Making conscious decisions for healthy habits. If you've been told you have to have surgery, do your homework, find out what you need to do to prepare yourself for that surgery to lessen the stress level. And of course, there may be other therapy out there solutions or recommendations that you can utilize to be able to help you to manage your fibroids. Also, there's evidence that high nutrition in meals helps you with both either prevention or management of your fibroids. Those who are pregnant may have been told that they have fibroids, like my younger sister, when she had her first child. But of course, there's 2 types of things that we look at. Some people, when they become pregnant, they may have gestational diabetes during their pregnancy, or may have both fibroids as well as diabetic-like symptoms. So the additional estrogen that your body is getting can increase it. Of course, there's certain factors you have to look at in the way of disruption in your pregnancy or threat. Or sometimes there may be no threat, but again, you have your OBGYN to help you guide you through that if you've been told. What is a fibroid diet? I mentioned before, healthy habits, including a proper diet. Things that are high in certain type of nutrients is what will help you in your fibroid journey. As I mentioned before, some individuals, they may have a shrinking of their fibroids if they're eating the right way and doing the right things. And of course, to manage that. So as we mentioned before, there's certain symptoms that you may experience. And if you're eating the right type of foods to reduce the inflammation in your body, eating easy to digest food can potentially help to relieve these fibroid symptoms. So less frequency, and you sort of pay attention to your body, know exactly what you're eating, maybe keep a journal of the foods you're eating throughout the day, and sort of go back and reassess to see, okay, this worked for me, that didn't work for me. I noticed my inflammation actually increased, so I found that my inflammation went down. My pain level actually was diminished, or it increased because I may not have a balanced type of diet that helps me to shrink or potentially shrink my fibroids. So it is possible for a fibroid diet to reduce the risk of fibroids if you're doing that consistently. But if you've been told that you have, you sort of ignored it and not been diagnosed, there's a chance that it'll keep growing if it in size and ultimately may have to have surgery if it's not shrinking. So what are foods to eat if you have fibroids? So fiber-rich foods can help also for your weight loss, but to help balance your hormones, managing your blood sugar, things like oats, barley, lentils, beans, and so forth. Some people have other underlying conditions. Of course, you want to work with the kind of foods you can and cannot eat if you have other underlying issues outside of fibroids. So sort of, again, keep track of what you're doing, eliminate what you need to eliminate, and add what you need to add. These type of vegetables that are rich in fiber or dense in fiber, things like broccoli, cauliflower, those type of green leafy vegetables are good for you if you're able to eat it. Again, if you do have an underlying condition that forbids you from eating that because it works against you, be mindful of that. Foods high in potassium helps, of course. It helps to counter the effects of salt and balance the blood pressure. That actually includes things like avocados, potatoes, and so forth, even cantaloupes, bananas. So again, balancing what you eat in the way of eating the right types of food to help you naturally to potentially shrink your fibroids. Dairy, if you gravitate to dairy, things like yogurt and cheese you can have. If you're not a dairy person, if you chose to step away from dairy, there's other alternatives you can think of. There's goat milk, there's goat cheese. There's actually non-dairy, like coconut type of yogurt, things you can actually use to help you with your calcium, magnesium, and so forth, and your flavonoids. So there are other things you want to think of is to cut down on the amount of red meat that you eat and choose more fish, not farm-grown fish, but wild fish. That's wild caught fish. So because the types of farmed fish have a high antibiotics, may not work with you because you have this too much antibiotics that's fed to the fish, may impact you in your health because you're consuming that as well. Even red meats have high amounts of antibiotics. So of course you want to get grass-fed meat, but also make sure that you don't eat as much, right? Sugars and carbohydrates, avoid things with added sugar, white bread, pasta, so forth, to reduce the amount you eat, the amount of soda, drinks, processed food, prepackaged energy drinks or bars, anything that could actually increase your estrogen level, all right? So like with added hormones. Flaxseed is one, soy milk, soybeans, those type of things. So how do you think, what do you think of in the way of implementing your lifestyle? One day at a time. Changing your habit can be daunting, especially if your brain thinks it's a task. So I would say to you, there's actually a book I like to read, which is called Atomic Habits. And for me, and maybe yourself, you may have developed some not so good habits. So I do this thing called habit stacking. So even if I'm prone to have a snack or two that's not quite healthy, I make sure I stack it with something healthy, right? So if I know I'm going to gravitate later on in the week for cake or chocolate or something like that, I make sure my week I'm eating something healthy, making the right choices, and of course lessen some things that are not good for me. And over time, that habit will develop because your mind is sort of reminding you to make more conscious decision of healthier choices. If you smoke, smoke less. If you drink, drink less until you've developed the habit of quitting drinking and smoking, especially if you have fibroids. Lowering your blood pressure is very important. Avoiding certain type of salts, especially salt that are iodized. Get salt like Himalayan, but make sure you know where the Himalayan salt is coming from, where it's not heavy and not actually mixed with heavy metals, because that can happen depending where it is actually brought into your country from. Celtic salt, kosher salt, all of those are pretty good, but make sure they're not iodized. When shopping, stay away from processed food. Make sure you get nice green leafy vegetables and fruits. If you can go organic, great. If not, then of course we have to watch your pocket as well, so you don't actually add additional stress to yourself. But things that are high in sodium, make sure you learn to read your labels, right? So natural food compounds, things you can think of, things that are high in flavonoids, things like turmeric, if you can have it, things that are actually high in, excuse me, that help to balance your estrogen level is very important as well. Even the green tea extract is one. Making sure you're taking the right amount of vitamin D is important. I take about 4 to 5,000 international units of that because I was actually told I have a deficiency in vitamin D, and there's no indicators that you can tell, right? But I decided to ask, and I paid for it, and then I was told I was low, so I started taking the right amount. Most times we have a vitamin, a multivitamin, and you maybe get 333 international units, which is not sufficient for, an adult. So think having additional foods that are high in vitamin D, plus taking vitamin D supplements or right kind is very good for you. Things like eggs, mushrooms, all of that will be great for increasing your vitamin D. And as I mentioned about mushrooms, I'm speaking to you about this actual superfood that we were introduced to about 14 years ago. It's called reishi in Japan, Ganoderma lucidum in the Western world. It has high amount of antioxidants, amino acids, vitamins, minerals that normally you won't get in your everyday food that you eat. We get food for energy, but not the right nutrients because most of the soil is depleted. So think of it this way. If let's say you love avocados, you may need to have about 7 whole avocados to have one single, as compared to one single dose of the Ganoderma lucidum to get the same amount of the equivalent of the 150 antioxidants that your body can consume or actually get when you compare apples to orange, so to speak. Just to put things into place, as well as an example comparison, if you love green tea, you may need to have 54 cups of green tea to get the equivalent of one single dose of the Ganoderma lucidum. In the case, 150, in the way of the antioxidants versus 54 cups to get the antioxidants you need, just the same amount. So can you drink 54 cups of tea? I love tea, but not that much. So things like the supplements your body naturally needs for your dietary supplements, omega-3s, probiotics, superfoods. In this case, I'm sharing with you the superfood that I actually gravitated with myself and my family and what people have shared it with. In this case, Ganoderma lucidum is one of them, lion's mane is another, even cordyceps. And these are actually all anti-inflammatory because they have great properties as well. The mushroom I'm sharing with you is under 2 classes of medicinal mushroom and food supplement, and actually can be utilized complementary to what you're doing or as a replacement depending on your level of what you're doing in the way of your health. Very, very, very rich in nutrients, bioactive compounds, carbs, carbohydrates, proteins, and so forth, and the type of vitamins your body needs, especially have, underlying issues and ailments, and it's been known to help with many things. So all foods we know either have a portion of antioxidants, terpenoids, flavonoids, and they all have their great benefits. Some help with the gut, some help with the inflammation in your body, some help with antioxidants, helps the brain. And so this actually carries a wide range of benefits in the way of minerals and vitamins. And as I share that with you, I'm so happy and thankful that we were introduced to this amazing superfood many years ago, over a decade, and we have benefited in the way of our health. And not just that, spreading this brand, which I'm going to share with you that we represent, is called Organo. And we discovered wellness with Organo. And of course, I'm going to share this with you. So we represent a brand with a purpose. We help people create better lives, healthy and mature lives. And we are so thankful we're able to add value to individuals that we connect with by sharing the treasures of the earth. And so within Canada, we actually have a natural product number for this amazing Ganoderma because it comes in different forms, in capsule form especially. And it states that it can help protect the immune system. It can help protect infections and many diseases. So we actually have that documented, but beyond that, there are many studies to show well over 3,000 case studies of what this can do. So the Ganoderma we carry, we actually provide, has a patent protected in the ground cultivation or 30 plus qualifications in the WELL certification, I meant to say, and it's grown naturally as nature is intended to. So I'm showing you a comparison here. Most brands have organic Ganoderma, but it's grown in plastic bags. So the nutrients you get from that isn't as great as what we have, which is actually allows your body to get 99.9% of all the nutrients into your body and stays in your body, versus the artificial, which is grown, still considered, certified organic, but between 4% to 13% of that gets staying in your body in the way of bioavailability. And so think of it this way: if you have an adult that's not well, and you have an offspring, you can have a healthy offspring. You're going to have an adult and a child who are in the same boat, basically, who are unwell because you're not getting the right nutrients from that parent, from that mother. So same thing as well. You are what you eat. So if you're not getting the right nutrients, your body can't perform at its optimal best. What do we offer in the way of, in the way of this Ganoderma? Well, normally Ganoderma itself is quite bitter to taste. If you could brew it into a tincture. I don't do bitter. Maybe you do, but I don't. Tend to go to the sweet side. You may not. But what I love about this brand, it actually is infused into everyday consumable items like coffee, tea, hot cocoa, even in pure capsule form, vegetable casing, that you actually can consume on a regular basis without even having to change your habit. Remember I mentioned before? It's hard for us to change habits because our brain thinks of it as a task. But what if you were to switch the brand you're consuming, where it's coffee, tea, hot cocoa, and switch to another brand, get an amazing gourmet taste, and you're not tasting the bitterness of the Ganoderma, but receiving all of the benefits. This is what we did. So anywhere from, for myself, I tend to gravitate, now sort of growing up coffee drinker, I tend to gravitate to the Royal or the King. It's actually pure black. They have many benefits, especially the Royal has three types of mushrooms. And then, of course, if you gravitate to sweet, like mocha, latte, so forth, you can still enjoy the gourmet taste, and again, still experience the benefits of the Ganoderma. Because think of it this way: if you make one small change in your life for your health, you can have a lasting impact. And that lasting impact can actually be a domino effect for other things that your body actually needs, and then you experience yourself, because the body does not lie. It tells you exactly how it feels. So think of practicing wellness in a positive mindset, and being mindful of the things that you're consuming, and being mindful of your state, being mindful of your body as you're improving your health. As I mentioned before, there's 3 of the mushrooms in one of the coffees that we provide on our platform, the organo brand that we represent. We have most of the products with Ganoderma, which is the fruiting body of the mushroom, and there's others that carry Ganoderma and cordyceps, and the others that carry all 3. So they all work synergistically with each other or by themselves, and you also receive the benefit. So think of utilizing Ganoderma as a passport to holistic wellness. We are looking at making choices to help our overall well-being. So if you've never heard of this Ganoderma, that's okay. When we first were introduced to this brand, I couldn't even pronounce the word Ganoderma. So for now, just having the experience and sharing with you, had a few times to practice the word, but now knowing so many benefits we've received, as well as others who have given us testimonials. So think of your passport to holistic wellness by including something like this. In this case, we have, as you see on the screen, the Ganoderma grows in 3 different stages. So the root, which is the mycelium, like the network of nature, the fruiting body, which is the Ganoderma, which is the main body, and then little seeds from that fruiting body goes into the air, back onto plum logs, and creates these are spores. So it can regenerate, in a way of, as nature meant it to be, to continuing the stages from root to fruiting body to spores, and again, versus those that are grown in plastic bag, which cannot produce spores. And these are all the vegetable casing, in case you're wondering. So unlock your full potential by embarking on a journey that can help you with your optimal health, by thinking of these type of ways of improving your health, by introducing something into your body that's natural, has no negative interaction with medication, as we have all the over 3,000 case studies, as well as have it as complementary to what you're doing or on its own. So Ganoderma, I'm going to show you as we wrap up here. I'm going to show you some documented information that I actually was able to gather some of the benefits of Ganoderma through Public Medical Library, pubmed.gov. So the polysaccharides we know is important in food. We get that from the food, but think of having a higher dosage of that through the Ganoderma lucidum, which helps with your inflammation, so it's anti-inflammatory. It actually has a lot of antioxidants. It helps in things giving your body the right things that it needs, like isoflavones and flavonoids. We know green tea has a lot of vitamin C, D, and E. We even have green tea on our platform, on our list of products that we have, the gourmet products. And the Ganadum is actually infused into the green tea, so you're getting double or triple benefit from that. And so this actually can help with different things, including depression, if you're going through depression in this particular case, or any case that you're going through sort of, moments of mental health. It helps with that as well, balancing that. But we mentioned before that oxidative stress is one of the key indicators that can cause you to have, your body to be sort of imbalanced. The PubMed study shows here that it helps to reduce the inflammation and also reduce the oxidative stress or reverse the damage caused to your body. In Japan, if you have a condition, especially, for example, a heart condition, they ask you to take Ganoderma lucidum in addition to your heart medication. So we know in all cases that you may have to have pharmaceutical traditional medication, but there are so many side effects that can damage your organs and so many other things. So this is why most of the Eastern world are recommending something traditional that doesn't have a negative interaction. And the reason I say that with my mother, when she had her second stroke at the time, I couldn't even give her turmeric. I couldn't give her ginkgo biloba because she had mild to moderate dementia, but I could give her the Ganoderma because it's considered a food supplement. Another fact here showing that with this PubMed study, as you can see PMID and the number above, you can do it at your own pace. Go through PubMed yourself and look at that. It helps with also fighting obesity. It accelerates your metabolism. Your metabolism is basically as you age or go through different changes like menopause or things like this, can help to sort of balance that. And of course, it's very high, has very high antioxidant factors or nutrients. Another one here as well, for those who are going through this type of condition, may have extreme pain or chronic pain. You may have issues with sleeping, you may have anxiety. Here are some PubMed studies to show you that it actually helps with reducing your anxiety level, helps reducing your pain or your depression, helps you with relaxing, calming effect, and helps in the case of if you have, it has actually antidepressant like effects. Excuse me. Another thing is what I want to share with you is that this particular Ganoderma thing, when I'm sharing with you, not only has all these nutrients, it helps defeat stress on a regular basis. And if you're going through a certain type of stressful moments and your mind is impacted, your body's impacted, this would be a great addition to your health plan to help you with balancing those things. Some other type of PubMed study shows here that it protects against oxidative stress, as I mentioned before, not only the Ganoderma, but also the cordyceps, which I'll share with you in a second. It also helps with, it has a lot of prebiotic components to it. It helps the body as well because we need probiotic and prebiotic in our body, but also helps in case you have anemia. So it actually works as an anti-anemic property, especially for those who are diabetic. I'm not talking about diabetes now, but the studies I'm showing here is studies done on people who are diabetic and those who've had issues with anemia. It helps in the way of your hypoglycemic numbers as well as your anemia. Another one as well that I want to share with you is that you may have other factors as you're going through fibroids. And so fibroids, if you were told you have to have a partial surgery to remove some parts of your reproductive and leave your ovaries, or you have to have a full hysterectomy, the concern might be you may go into early menopause, which leads to osteoporosis. So the Ganoderma and the lion's mane actually helps with that. It exhibits anti-osteoporosis effects, so it protects your bones. Not only for those who are going through fibroids, people who are going through things like cancer treatment, radiation, going through chemo. It's been known you can have this Ganoderma or spores itself to protect your bones, protect your organ. So it helps to modulate your immune system as well, which may cause harmful bacteria to impact your body. And so the cordyceps I mentioned, there's some further studies here. I just want to point out the last one on the slide, which talks about cordyceps. The mycelium actually helps improving with anemia as well, as also if you have muscle damage or muscle injury, helps to protect you or to help to support you in that case. The second one I want to mention here, the PubMed, it actually helps with your appetite, helps with your stamina or your, most people have fatigue because they're anemic because of this. But also it helps many other health benefits, but these are the things I wanted to highlight with you. The cordyceps also, for people who have had menopause, going through menopause, and then they're told they have fibroids, this actually can help to help you. So the compound in the cordyceps, which is found in the red tea that we have on our platform, helps with not only if you're going through menopause, but if you've been diagnosed with fibroids as well. So it helps to regulates the obesity that you may have, or you may gain weight because of your hormone levels being disrupted because of menopause, but also for fibroids as well. And it helps you preventing being overweight, fat accumulation. This happens. And so many factors in your hormone imbalance can actually play a role in you going into menopause, as well as if you've been diagnosed with both menopause and fibroids. So think of it as something that can help you in a way of regulating your body, helping your body become more and more homeostasis state. All the things too as well for cordyceps, it helps to not only, as I mentioned, with the Ganoderma, it helps with oxidative stress as well as your inflammatory pathways as well. Lion's mane, which is one of the three mushrooms in the Royale, helps with your brain-gut communication in the way of helping to repair your gut, but also helps with your mood, mental, your cognition, your memory. All of these factors play a big role in not just anyone who has fibroids, but many other conditions as well. This is what I was referring to, the Royale. And the Royale itself is the only coffee we have in our brand of beautiful, wonderful gourmet products. We have the cordyceps, the Ganoderma, and the lion's mane in this one. And then, of course, I mentioned the others have just the Ganoderma or the spores. This is the red tea I mentioned to you before, which has the cordyceps as well as the Ganoderma. It has many benefits, but these are just some of them. As we wrap up in the last slide, here I just want to mention to you, for those of you who like to try this, at least for 30, 60, or 90 days, just to see what your body, how your body responds to it. We have a promotion right now where if you were to get actually one or two or maybe three products, if it's over $50, the shipping is free. And the shipping is free whether you're in Canada or the US, anywhere outside, of course, it is applicable. And you can get that shipped to you within 5 to 7 business days because our head office is in Victoria, BC. And you can try different variation of what your palate likes. If you like sweet, I would suggest sweet. If you like black, then black, or maybe try more different variety and reach back to the person who invited you. And of course, as we wrap up now, I just want to let you know that if you were to place your order through the person, you can actually get 10% online or on a way to get 25% as a ongoing, as an ongoing customer. So with that, I'm going to open up I paused for going a little bit longer, but I just wanted to just share that piece with you because I think it's important for women who are going through this or have been told that they have fibroids, that they can have some more information that I'm so happy to share with you. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask? I'm going to open up the mic if you have a question. You just want to. If you're shy, you can put the question in the chat. Okay, then. So since there's no question, I would like to wrap up with that. I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for you could have done anything else, but you chose to be here with me. This time on 7 o'clock on next Tuesday, we'll be speaking on a different topic. I will share that for you a few days in advance. And of course, feel free to reach out to the person who invited you. And with that, have a great day. Have a great evening, I should say. Thank you all and have a good night.